When you're standing in front of a wall of acoustic kits at a music store, it's easy to feel a little overwhelmed. The price tags can swing from a few $100s for a beginner set to several thousand for a professional rig, and the middle ground where most hobbyists and serious learners sit often feels like a gamble. Is the extra expense really going to translate into a noticeable boost in practice quality, or will you end up with a piece of gear that looks great on paper but feels clunky once you start playing? I'm going to walk through the Roland TD316 V-drums, break down the real-world experience of setting it up in a typical apartment, and help you decide whether it's the sweet spot you've been searching for or just another shiny entry point that might not suit your workflow. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the environment most people will use this kit in. I've spent the last few weeks arranging a compact home studio in a spare bedroom that's about 8 feet by 10. The biggest concern for me and for a lot of buyers is space. The TD316 advertises a compact foot and a slimmer rack, and that claim holds up when you actually unbox it. The snare, toms, and hi-hat all mount onto a single rack that slides together like a puzzle, and the whole thing can be tucked into a corner without the towering presence of a full-size acoustic set. I was able to set the kit up in under 15 minutes, which is a big win for anyone who doesn't want to spend hours fiddling with brackets and cables. Now, the sound engine. Roland's V31 module is the brain behind the kit, and it ships preloaded with a multi-sampled library that was put together with Drum Workshop's expertise. What that means in practice is you get a fairly wide palette of kit sounds, everything from classic jazz brush tones to heavy metal punches without having to download anything extra. The module also includes a 6-month Roland Cloud Ultimate membership, which unlocks a rotating selection of expansion packs. If you're the kind of player who likes to experiment with different genres, that subscription can keep the kit feeling fresh for a while, but it does require an internet connection to download the packs. In a real-world rehearsal, I found the default rock kit to be surprisingly articulate. The snare's rim shots cut through the mix, and the toms have enough body to sound convincing even when I'm playing at a moderate volume. One of the practical strengths that becomes evident after a few sessions is the sensor technology on the pads. Roland has moved to a more powerful sensor layout that picks up nuances in strike position and velocity. In plain terms, if you hit the edge of the snare versus the center, you'll hear a slight tonal shift, and a soft tap will be distinctly quieter than a hard strike. For a home player who is still developing dynamics, that feedback can be educational. The kit also features an integrated coach mode, a built-in metronome and practice routine system that can guide you through timing exercises. I tried the Rock 2 coaching track while recording a simple 4-beat pattern, and the visual cue lights on the module helped me stay locked in without having to stare at a phone screen. However, the TD316 isn't without its trade-offs. Because it's positioned as a mid-level model, the pad materials are a step down from Roland's premium ProLive series. The tom pads have a firmer feel that can feel a bit plastic compared to the more textured response of higher-end kits. If you're used to the rebound and nuance of a top-tier electronic drum, you might notice the difference after a few weeks. That said, the difference is subtle enough that it won't break a beginner's immersion, and for most casual players the convenience outweighs the tactile compromise. Connectivity is another area where the kit shows its practicality. The V31 module provides standard inch outputs for linking to an amp or audio interface, plus a USB-A port that lets you send MIDI data straight into a DAW. I routed the USB output into Ableton Live and was able to trigger individual drum samples in a session view, which opened up a whole workflow for creating practice loops. The downside is that the kit doesn't include Bluetooth or wireless audio streaming, so if you're hoping for a completely cable-free setup, you'll need to rely on the traditional connections. That's a minor inconvenience for most, but something to keep in mind if you're trying to keep your floor space entirely clear. Who should consider buying the TD316? If you're a hobbyist who practices regularly at home, need a kit that won't dominate a small apartment, and want a respectable sound library without spending a fortune on additional software, this model lands squarely in your comfort zone. It also serves well for teachers who need a portable solution that can be set up quickly for on-the-fly lessons, as the compact rack and easy plug-and-play design reduce the